And now, Dick Tracy.
This is Dick Tracy on the case of the man without a head. Stand by for action.
Let's go, men.
Yes, it's Dick Tracy, protector of law and order. Boys and girls, when you get into an argument with one of your friends, do you see his side as well as your own? Well, you know, there are two sides to every story, and nothing illustrates that better than this. George V. Denny, Jr. is the founder and moderator of America's Town Meeting of the Air, and Mr. Denny keeps what appears to be a black ball on his desk. When an argument starts, he picks it up and asks, "What color is this ball?" Well, naturally, you'll say black. Whereupon Mr. Denny, with a twinkle in his eyes, will contradict and say white. And then he'll twirl the ball around his hand so it becomes obvious it's black on one side and white on the other. Well, that's just Denny's way of emphasizing that people usually see only one side of an argument. And that's just the kind of thinking on which his famed America's Town Meeting program is based. Giving the American people the views of famed experts on both sides of national and international issues so that they hear all the facts and finally form their own opinions. Here's the next session of Denny's popular America's Town Meeting tonight on the American Broadcasting Company. And now, Dick Tracy. You remember in yesterday's story how Dick and Pat were assigned to find a man suspected of murdering 3 women. Presenting Tracy with a file, the chief showed him a picture of the man he wanted brought in. That is, a picture of the man, but without a head. For when the picture was taken, the suspect had the good fortune to have his head blocked out by a passerby. Well, naturally, Tracy was at a loss to know what the man looked like. However, with the aid of the coroner, he was able to gain a lot of information about his quarry. And later, in discussing the case with his sidekick, Pat happened to mention that the dead girl had had an insurance policy which made her mother the beneficiary. But immediately, Tracy swung into action and had Pat drive him at breakneck speed to the mother's home. Listen.
Please don't look so frightened, Mrs. Smith.
It's about Hazel, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Has something happened to her?
Well, Mrs. Smith, I don't... You mean you haven't seen your daughter lately?
Not this week, Mr. Tracy. But please, what's happened? Is she ill? Has there been an accident?
Mrs. Smith, there has been an accident.
I can tell from your expression that it's serious. Please, Mr. Tracy, go on. Don't keep me in suspense. What's happened?
Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry to have to tell you that your daughter Hazel is dead.
Maybe I can get you a glass of water or something, Mrs. Smith.
No, never mind. I'll be all right in a moment. How did it happen, Mr. Tracy?
The authorities have been trying to reach you for the last 48 hours, Mrs. Smith.
I've been out of town. I've been visiting friends in the country. Please don't try to spare me, Mr. Tracy. I'm all right.
Mrs. Smith, your daughter Hazel was murdered.
Murder?
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
When did it happen? How?
It happened 2 days ago. About 5:30 in the afternoon, as near as we can tell from the coroner's report.
Did it happen on her way back from work?
That's what we're inclined to believe.
I see.
Your daughter was a victim of murder by violence.
Oh, no.
The marks in her throat indicate she'd been attacked by someone very strong and powerful.
Oh, poor Hazel. I pleaded with her and begged her to live at home with me, Mr. Tracy. But she insisted that she live a life of her own. Oh, I knew no good would come of it when she took an apartment with that other girl. And now this has happened.
I'm sorry I have to tell you these things, Mrs. Smith.
I understand perfectly, Mr. Tracy. And I'm sure that you're here to be as much help as you can.
That's it exactly.
Where is she now?
Well, because we weren't able to reach you, her body was placed in the morgue.
Just a moment, Mr. Tracy, while I get my things. I want to go to her.
Please, Mrs. Smith. That's exactly what we don't want you to do.
But
Now, please sit down and listen to what I have to say.
Are you sure there isn't something we can get for you, Mrs. Smith?
Nothing. Thank you. It's just that I have a hard time keeping a grip on myself. You were saying, Mr. Tracy?
Mrs. Smith, we don't want you to leave the house under any circumstances.
But I don't understand. Judging from your manner, you act as if I were in danger.
There's a possibility of that. I'll try to explain it to you. As a result of my examination, I found that your daughter has amassed quite a sum of money. And also had recently taken out an insurance policy on her life, making you the beneficiary.
Yes. Yes, I knew that, Mr. Tracy. She told me all about it. But what has that to do with danger towards me?
In all crimes, Mrs. Smith, we first look for a motive. And in this case, I believe the motive was money.
Oh?
Your daughter's savings, which she kept in the house, has disappeared.
Oh.
And the insurance policy, naming you a beneficiary, represents quite a tidy sum to anyone who can lay his hands on it.
You mean someone might make a similar attempt on my life?
That's the possibility I have in mind.
Tell me one thing, Mr. Tracy. Have you any idea who did this to my daughter?
We have. In fact, I can show you a photograph of the man.
Oh?
Unfortunately for us, you'll see that the photograph isn't complete. Here it is.
Hazel, that's a picture of my daughter walking along the street.
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
But you spoke of a man.
Yes, right here.
Oh, complete. Except for the face.
Yes, Mrs. Smith. Tell me, could you possibly identify the man from this photograph?
No, Mr. Tracy.
No, I thought not. And unfortunately, neither can we.
And you think this man was the murderer?
We're not sure, Mrs. Smith. But all the other people in the photograph have been investigated and are under no suspicion.
I see.
There only remains the man without a head. Now, let me go over this whole matter carefully with you, Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
I want to impress on you the importance I attach to your staying right here till I give you permission to leave.
Step by step, Tracy and Mrs. Smith went over the events leading up to the murder of her daughter. Meanwhile, sitting in his apartment in another section of the city is the man shown in the photograph, the man without a head. Opposite him is one George Scanlon. Listen.
Relax, George, relax. You sit there on the edge of that sofa as if you're ready to jump out the window.
I don't know how you do it, Hoppy. It's getting so you act as if you had no nerves at all.
I haven't, George. You can't afford to have.
But this makes 3 of them.
So what? This is only the beginning.
But how do you spot these dames, Hoppy? That's what I want to know.
Why, it's simple, George. I just hang around the banks, watch them cash their checks, follow them home, and see what they do with the money.
Yeah.
Why, take this last dame, Hazel Smith. I followed her for 5 weeks before I figured she was worth knocking off. And $1,200 cash isn't so bad.
But how'd you find out about this insurance policy?
Why, that was simple, George. This dame lives with another one. I just waited till they were both out working, got into their apartment, and searched.
And you mean to tell me you're going to make a try for the $5,000 that this dame's mother's going to get?
$5,000 is a lot of money, George. I did it the last 2 times, and I guess I can do it again. I'll just wait till I'm sure the insurance company has paid her off, and then watch me go to work.
That means we don't do anything for a couple of weeks, huh?
No, you're wrong there, George. I don't believe in letting the grass go under my feet. Let's see, it's about 5 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And let's get going.
You mean you got the finger on another one?
Let's go.
You might at least let me know where we're going.
Why, George, we're going to take a little walk up near the park. There's a certain young lady up there I've been wanting to speak to for the last couple of weeks. She's pretty good looking, George. You'll see her come out at 25 after 5. Come on. Check the time, George.
Yeah. It's just about 25 after 5.
And sure to be along any minute. Now, remember, we're just a couple of guys from out of town who've lost our way.
Okay.
Act dumb, George. Here she comes. Watch it now. I beg your pardon, miss.
Oh, you startled me.
Oh, I'm sorry, miss. I didn't mean to startle you. I just wanted to ask you a question.
Oh, that's all right. You just spoke to me so suddenly, that's all. What is it you wanted to know?
Well, we're from out of town, miss, and I guess we're lost.
Oh.
I wonder if you could tell us where we are. Of course, I know we're in the middle of a park, but I want to get down to the theatrical district.
Well, I'll admit you're a little bit off the track, but it shouldn't be too hard to set you right. If you'll come along with me as far as the park entrance, I'll show you the bus to take.
That'll be very nice of you, miss.
Where are you from?
We're from Ohio, miss. We just got in last night. We're looking for jobs.
Oh, you probably worked in a defense plant and were laid off.
That's right.
Yeah. Don't look as if we'd find anything here either.
Oh, have you tried the employment agencies?
Yeah, we sure have, miss. They don't hold out much hope.
Oh.
You know, miss, I have an idea. I don't want you to think it improper, but how about having dinner with us?
Oh, I'm afraid I couldn't do that.
Oh, you have other plans?
No, it isn't that. It's just that I don't know you gentlemen.
Now, wait a minute, miss. There's nothing to this except a dinner. On our walk around the park, we saw a nice restaurant not far from here, and I was just going to suggest that we go there and have a meal. Believe me, miss, it's just that we're kind of lonely.
And that's the story, Mrs. Smith, as we have it up to the moment.
Excuse me a moment, Mr. Tracy. My phone is ringing.
She certainly took it well, didn't she, Dick?
Yes, but I'm sorry I had to be the one to tell her. That's one of the hard things about this job of ours.
It's for you, Mr. Tracy. Your office is calling.
Oh, thank you. Inspector Tracy.
Inspector, this is the desk sergeant.
Yeah, what is it?
We just got a report from the cops on the park patrol. There's some dame up there that has hysterics. I thought you ought to know about it.
But go ahead, Sergeant.
Well, it seems that a couple of guys picked up this dame, sold her the idea of buying her dinner. Well, it turned out the way it usually does. They parked cops have her in the lobby of the apartment house at the north entrance of the park, trying to quiet her down. There may be no connection with what you're working on, but I'm just following your orders.
Well, thanks, Sergeant. Pat and I will go right up there.
All right, you'll find the cops and the girl in the lobby of the Belmore Apartments.
Right.
What's the matter, Mr. Tracy?
Nothing really, Mrs. Smith, but Pat and I have to leave on a routine matter for a while.
Oh.
I'll station one of my men outside your house for protection. And please obey my instructions. Don't leave your house under any circumstances till you hear from me again.
Yes, Mr. Tracy.
Come on, Pat. Let's go.
Okay, Dick.
Well, the sergeant said they had the girl in the lobby.
Right in here, Inspector. Take it easy. She's in pretty bad shape.
Oh, good evening, miss. My name is...
Away! Don't you touch me!
No. Steady, miss. Get a grip on yourself and answer my questions carefully. Steady, miss.
In a moment, we return to Dick Tracy. But first, have you boys and girls heard about the corpse who was shot 6 times when only 2 bullets were fired? Well, pull up a gun and sit down. You see, it happened during a gangbusters program. The whole show was built around the corpse who'd been shot 6 times. Well, standing by to do the dastardly deeds were 2 sound effects men armed with guns. Number 1 sound man was supposed to shoot 6 times. But just in case his gun jammed, number 2 sound man was to use the cover gun. And if anything happened to that, another gun, that's gun number 3, would certainly work if number 2 failed. Well, came time for the kill. Gun number 1 fired once, twice, and then the gun jammed. Gun number 2, the cover gun, didn't go off at all, and gun 3, the cover gun, just gave it up as a bad job. The 6 times shot corpse had been killed with 2 shots, a fact that was pointed out in more letters than the program likes to remember. Usually when somebody is shot on gangbusters, they're shot but good. Oh, yes, the show makes good listening. And here's the news. Gangbusters is now heard every Saturday night on most of these stations of the American Broadcasting Company. And now, back to Dick Tracy.
Get on that phone, Pat, and tell the operator to clear the wire. A tri-state alarm. Descriptions of both of these men are to reach every one of our offices within 15 minutes.
Right, Dick. Operator, this is an emergency. Clear the line to headquarters. Yep, that young girl up in the park certainly had a close call, Dick. If you hadn't been able to break away from those 2 guys, it's possible they might have knocked her off.
Yeah, you're right, Pat. And it proves once again that no one should ever get mixed up with strangers.
Yep, you're right. Well, I hope we get some returns from that tri-state alarm, Dick. The description that girl gave us was very accurate of both those guys.
Well, with over 200 men on the lookout for them, Pat, won't be long before we get some action. Inspector Tracy.
Inspector, this is Lieutenant Burton of the Identification Bureau.
Yes, Lieutenant.
I've looked through the rogues gallery. Don't seem to be able to find pictures of either one of the men answering your description. I'm having a further check made in Washington. No fingerprints, eh?
No, Lieutenant. Unfortunately.
Okay, Inspector. I'll call you back if we get anywhere with our investigation.
Thanks. Pat and I will be here till we get returned from the teletype. Goodbye. Well, no trace in the rogues gallery of the men. So I guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, that's what always gets me. Nick's waiting.
And it does me too, Pat.
Yep, there goes the teletype, Dick.
I'm checking it, Pat. Maybe the first return.
Okay. To headquarters from office number 5. No return yet on bulletin 61. No lead. Every man available on 24-hour duty. We'll keep you advised. Signed, Magruder.
That's about what I expected. I'm afraid we're up against a pair of pretty clever criminals, Pat.
Yeah, but in the meantime, these 2 guys may be trying to knock somebody else off, and that's why...
Tracy.
This is the inspector again. This is Lieutenant again, Dick. Reports are starting to come in from our other city. But they're all negative so far. With your permission, I'll have the outside phone circuit switch through your office.
Good, Lieutenant. I'll switch on the amplifying system.
Okay, Inspector. You'll get a lot of routine squad car calls. You want to be bothered with them?
It won't be a bother, Lieutenant. I want to be sure and get the reports as soon as possible.
Okay, Inspector. That's all.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Pat, switch on the amplifier.
Okay, Dick.
As the men from headquarters intensified their efforts to find the two criminals, Dunn and Scanlon, the very men that they were after have hidden themselves in a room in another section of the city. From time to time, George Scanlon carefully approaches the window overlooking the street and peers furtively between a crack in the curtain. Listen.
The street's still clear, Hoppy. How about making a break for it?
Make a break for it? You're crazy. The safest place for us is right here.
How long are we going to have to stay here?
I don't know. Now get away from that window and sit down. I don't like this any better than you do.
It's just like I told you, Hoppy. You overplayed your hand.
Overplayed nothing. We're still all right, aren't we?
Yeah, sure we're all right. I'll bet every cop in this state's on the lookout for us.
And yet you want to go out in the street. Just let me do the thinking, George, and we'll be all right. We've got plenty of dough and can stay here until the heat's off. Now, just don't...
Who's that?
How would I know?
Shall I answer?
Wait till I stand over here. Keep the chain on the door. Go ahead. Open up.
Yeah?
Let me in.
What do you want?
I want to talk to you guys.
What about?
I don't mind. Take the chain off the door and let me in.
Just a minute. Did you hear that?
Yeah, let him in.
All right. Come in.
Thanks, buddy.
Come on in. Sit down.
Thanks.
Now, what's on your mind?
Oh, I just thought I'd come up and check up with you guys, see if you like the room. Everything was all right?
Yeah, everything's swell. We like it fine.
That's good. Does this other guy have to stand behind me?
No, I guess not. Sit down where the landlord can see you, George. You make him nervous standing behind him.
Okay.
So you like the room, huh?
I said that once.
I notice you guys don't go out much.
No, we're just resting.
How'd you like a radio up here? Shortwave radio?
Now, what would we...
Shut up, George. Look, brother, you didn't come up here for any social visit, and this business about the shortwave radio is a phony. What's on your mind?
Well, I guess I might as well come to the point. You look like a couple of reasonable guys. As far as I'm concerned, I'm reasonable, too. I always say live and let live.
So what?
I didn't make that crack about the shortwave radio for nothing.
Go ahead.
I've been listening to police calls, and I've been hearing the description of a couple of guys that are wanted on suspicion of murder. Of course, the broadcast gave the names of a couple of guys by the names of Dunn and Scanlon. So it couldn't be you guys, because you gave me names different from those.
Quit kidding and get to the point.
Okay. It'll cost you $1,000.
Oh, you dirty
Shut up,
rat.
George. What's the $1,000 for?
Well, I figured you guys might have to stay in this room for as much as a month. That'd mean a little special service. Maybe I could do a little shopping for you, see that your food was brought up. I might even be able to tip you off to any strange people in the neighborhood asking questions. Well, there are a lot of things I could do for you. One of them would be to keep my mouth shut.
But $1,000?
Sure, that's a lot of bucks, but there's a murder rap mixed up in this.
Now, listen,
Now,
brother.
don't get sore. I didn't say you guys were mixed up in that rap. I didn't say whether you were guilty or not. The only thing I say is that I know cops, and it won't be long before they come around. And that's when I'd earn my dough.
Let me tend to this guy, Hoppy.
Keep your mouth shut. $1,000, eh?
$1,000.
But I haven't got that kind of money. Now, if you'd said maybe 500.
No chiseling, buddy. This is murder, whether you admit it or not.
Suppose we talk about
No
it.
more talk. It's dough on the line or else.
You win.
That's what I like to hear. I know you're a couple of reasonable guys. I thought you'd see it my way.
Shut up and listen to me. I don't see it your way at all. You got us over a barrel. You're putting the squeeze on us. Now, here's your dough. Now, get out of here.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Believe me, you won't regret doing it. When the heat really gets on, I'll be able to give you a hand. Now, you just take it easy and leave everything to me. I'll see to it that you have the best of everything. Of course, that'll cost a little extra.
Get out of here.
Okay, if that's the way you feel about it. So long. I'll be seeing you.
Of all that dirty
Shut
rot.
up. He might be listening.
Why don't you let me finish?
Not now, you fool. He's let us off easy.
But $1,000, Hoppy. That way we haven't got as much dough as we thought.
And this guy isn't going to stop there. Pretty soon he'll be back for more.
What are we going to do?
I'm thinking of that right now.
Where do we tend to him?
Because we can't. Every cop in the world would be here, and then what would we do? You just keep away from that window. Let me do some thinking.
Oh. Maybe this guy will play on the level with us.
I wouldn't trust him an inch. If anybody offers a reward for us, he might even turn us in to get it. Now, George, we're in a tough spot. But I think I see a way out. Now, just don't bother me for a few minutes. Just let me think.
Anything new, Pat?
No, Dick. Just about the same story, smaller offices. No trace of either one of those guys. You know, you'd think with the description as accurate as the one they have, the police would have picked up those guys by now.
It can only mean one thing. The two of them have holed up somewhere. I would have put my hands on them, and a city this size presents a problem.
I suppose the only thing that will drive those guys out in the open is the lack of dough.
That's right. If they have enough money, it's possible for them to stay hidden indefinitely. I don't know what else to do, Pat. I've covered every possible angle.
That's your private way, Dick.
Yes?
Inspector Tracy, this is McGowan down at the Bureau of Licenses.
Yes, McGowan.
I handle the issuance of rooming house licenses, and I just had a funny one come up. May not mean a thing to you, but I'm following your instructions.
Go ahead, McGowan. I told you I wanted everything reported.
Well, it's like this. A guy by the name of Burton, George Burton, runs a rooming house at 4321 Boulevard. Now, his license to run a rooming house ran out last week. Instead of obeying the notice to come in and renew, he didn't do it. So we sent an investigator up there.
Yes?
Well, he gets in to see Burton, has him come down to the office and fill out the proper forms. You know the form.
Is that the one that makes them tell the number of rooms and the number of people in the building and so forth?
That's it. Well, Burton filled out the form all right, put the figure 10 in the place designated for the number of people in the building. And while I was watching, he scratched that out and put in 8.
Ah, 2 less, huh?
8 instead of 10. So just for the fun of it, I started to question him. I never saw a guy turn green so fast in all my life. Think there might be something to it?
Well, it's worth investigating. We've had no return whatsoever on the teletype bulletin.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, I don't want to tell you your business, but if it was me, I'd get down there and see what's bothering George Burton.
4321 Boulevard?
That's it. I hope I haven't sent you on a wild goose chase.
Don't you worry about that, and thanks for calling me.
All right. Good luck, Inspector.
Goodbye. Hear that, Pat?
Yep. Do we roll?
You bet we do. Come on, let's go.
In a moment, we return to Dick Tracy. But first, you know, in addition to Dick Tracy, we here at the American Broadcasting Company have a lot of programs we like a whole lot. And from time to time, I'm going to tell you about some of them. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to the beginning of our broadcast, you heard me talk about the Sheriff and Blind Date, heard on Friday night. Another one of our favorite shows is the Quiz Kids. Joe Kelly is the master of ceremonies for the Quiz Kids. Of course, he's got all those answers down on this card. What's more, do you know, it takes an entire research staff to supply him with a background for every question. But sometimes those smart kids come up with an answer that the research department forgot all about and one that isn't written on one of Joe's cards. Well, then, says Joe, it's up to me to figure out whether they're right. And I've got 20 million listeners waiting for me to go way out on that limb, and after I get out there, cut it off after me. But the youngsters are with Joe every inch of the way, because Joe knows how to make the whole affair seem like a wonderful game. He says it this way: when you're enjoying yourself with the kids, you sort of become a kid yourself. Well, boys and girls, you'll have a lot of fun listening to the Quiz Kids. They're heard on most of these stations on Sunday evenings on the American Broadcasting Company. Now, back to Dick Tracy.
Car 7, Tracy speaking.
Cars 9 and 1 meeting you at Boulevard and Grand.
Right, but no sirens under any circumstances. This'll be all right, Pat. We'll go back and see the other men. Give them their instructions.
Okay, Dick.
Hello, Fogarty.
Hello, Inspector. What's up?
We have a tip on a rooming house at 4321 Boulevard. McDonough at the licensing bureau called me up about it. Seems that in making out the form, the landlord made a mistake in the number of people registered in this house. And when McDonough questioned him, he got pretty flustered.
Kind of thin, isn't it, Inspector?
Yes, I'll admit that, but I can't afford to pass up the slightest clue.
What do you want us to do, Inspector?
Now, cover the front and rear of the house while Pat and I go in. And, listen, do it just as quietly as you possibly can. Try not to arouse the neighborhood.
Okay, Inspector. My partner and I'll take the front, and I'll send the fellows from car 9 around the back.
Good. And I'll give you 2 minutes to get set.
Right.
You sure hope this amounts to something, Dick. It doesn't look awful foolish if it doesn't.
Well, Pat, I'd rather look foolish than find out later we passed up a real tip.
I guess you're right, Dick. We can't let a guy stay loose who doesn't hesitate to murder any time he feels like it.
The boys seem to be all set in front of the house. Now, look. One of them standing in the areaway there smoking a cigarette. Looks as if he lived in the house.
Yep, that's Fogarty. Look at his partner. He's making believe he's asleep on the lower step of the house. Say, you think the other two are safe set around the back by now?
I think so, Pat. All we had to do is walk up the alley. Let's go. You ring, Pat. Now stand right here by the door, Jan.
Okay.
I'll tell him we're from the telephone company.
What is it?
We're from the telephone company, sir.
There's nothing the matter with my phone.
Would you mind opening the door all the way, sir? I hate to talk to you through just a crack.
I can hear you all right, and you can hear me. I told you there was nothing the matter with my phone.
Well, now, sir, it isn't your phone that we want to take a look at. It's the wiring that leads to the street. You see, we have a complaint from one of your neighbors that his telephone bell rings, and when he picks up the receiver, he hears voices. You know, crosstalk. We've checked, and it's your line.
Oh, well, that's different. I thought you were just a couple of guys snooping around here.
No, sir. This is legitimate.
Come on in. But make it snappy, because I got a lot of work to do. You know what it is these days. Can't get any help. I have to take care of 10 rooms myself.
10 rooms, huh?
I mean, 8.
Oh, I see.
Just where do you want to start in?
Well, the lead-in from the main line comes from the back of the house and cuts through the wall, leading with the first floor. We'll start there and check back for a break in the wire.
And come on this way.
Look, you don't have to hang around if you don't want to. You can go ahead and do your work, and we'll check with you before we leave.
Good. I got a lot of work to do. But look, don't go busting in any of these rooms without knocking. Some of the guys I got here work nights and sleep days. I'll be down in the cellar if you want me for anything. This is Burton, the landlord.
So what?
I just let a couple of guys in the house who said they were from the telephone company and wanted to check the wires. I think they're cops.
What did you let them in for?
I'd have kicked the door in if I hadn't.
Okay. Give us 5 minutes.
Okay, but no rough stuff.
Is anybody down here?
Yeah, what do you want?
Is it all right if we come down?
Sure, go on ahead.
Okay. All right, Pat, put the cuffs on him.
Hey, what is this?
All right, stick those hands out here.
Hey, don't put those things on me. I ain't nothing. Come on, cut out the rough stuff.
Hold it, Pat.
What's the idea?
I thought you'd do exactly as you did. I picked up the house phone at the end of the hall upstairs and heard your conversation.
So you are cops, huh?
Yeah, wise guys. Cops.
All right, get going up those stairs. Okay, Pat. Handcuff him to that iron pipe. We have to get upstairs.
All right, you. Stick them out.
Hey, I haven't done anything.
Up against that pipe and shut up. There. Okay, Dick. He won't get loose unless he tears the pipe out of the wall. Now, listen, wise guy. One word out of you and I'll come back and beat your head in.
What floor are these men on?
Come on, out with it.
On the top floor in the back.
Come on, Pat.
You know, Dick, it was a smart thing to post the guys at the front and back of the building.
I only hope they're the men we're after. Couldn't get much from the landlord's conversation.
This is the top floor, Dick.
Now, listen. We'll knock one. The door isn't open. We'll kick it in. Have your gun handy. Okay, Pat.
Empty. You've had time to duck out.
That door. Where's it go? It's all right, Pat. I have you covered.
It's just the door to a big clothes closet. Nothing in here.
No fire escape either. No back door.
Yep, they've got to be up here somewhere, Dick.
We have to search every inch of this place, Pat. You take the front of the house and I'll take the back. Look for a door that leads to the roof. Come on, now, make it fast.
You fooled them, Hoppy. You heard them run around the top floor. You fooled them all right. Lucky they didn't see us hiding behind the door as they came running upstairs. Let's go. They probably got cops at the front and back of the house. We'll worry about that when we come to it. Hey, look, there's the landlord. They got him handcuffed to an iron pipe. What a break. Come on.
Leave it, you guys. They're after you.
We know it's your rat. Go ahead, George. Give it to him.
Hey, now, wait.
Okay, George. Get our $1,000 out of his pocket.
I've got it. It's in his right-hand pocket.
Give it to me. I said give it to me.
Okay.
Now, let's see if we can get out of this place. We'll try the back way first. Come on.
Dick, I searched the front part of the house. There's no sign of him. Where do you suppose he could have gone?
Any door leading to the roof? A trap door or anything like that?
Nothing, Dick.
Let's go, Pat.
Hey, out front.
Right. They must be out in the street.
This way, Inspector.
What was that shooting?
2 men came sneaking out of the building you were in. We hollered into the house that they started running.
Well, jump in the car and we'll follow the route they took.
Yes, sir, the car, Inspector. My partner's trying to get him an I-car.
There's the front car, Dick, pulling up to the curb.
Pull up, Pat.
They ducked into the subway.
Okay. Keep your guns out of sight now. We don't want to start a panic.
Judging by the number of people on the platform, a local train isn't stopped here for quite some time.
All right. They'll probably try to lose themselves in the crowd. Hey, Pat. Some sort of commotion at the other end of the platform. All right. Stand back from the edge of that platform. Get back there now.
What's the trouble here?
A couple of guys just jumped down on a tractor.
Stuck it killed. Which way they go?
They jumped off the platform and they started to run up that way. I was just
Come on,
here, minding my own business, and I fuzzy up mine and one.
Here comes the train, Dick.
It's all right, Pat. It isn't on the track. It's an express.
Yeah, I wonder where they could have gone.
Use your flashlight.
Nope, we can't see them, Dick. Hey, I just had something.
And so did I. They'll try to use the emergency exit. Let's go.
I wonder where the nearest emergency exit is. That's the one they'd head for.
I don't know, Pat. And I think there's one of those exits about every block or so.
Hey, cover! I saw the flash that gun. It was right up ahead of us. I see them, Dick. They're crossing the track.
Come on, Pat. But look out for that train.
In a moment, we return to Dick Tracy. But first, all you boys and girls of high school age, Uncle Sam has a request to make of you. If you haven't finished your high school education, if you've been helping out during the war by doing needed war work, Uncle Sam wants you to go back and finish your high school course. You see, education is far more important than anything else to your future career. And there's another reason why Uncle Sam wants you to go back to school this year. By giving up your job now, you'll make it possible for some returning GI to have a job he needs to get him started in civilian life again. Seems to me that that's the very least that we can do for our soldiers. They fought for us. Of course, many of them have died for us. So let's help the boys who come back. Let's help them get off to a good start. And you boys and girls can help by going back to high school. Learn all you can to fit yourself for your chosen career. Learn about world affairs, about science, about government. For you will be the statesman of the future. The continuation of a free and democratic way of life will depend upon your ability as an able worker and as a citizen in later years. So make those back-to-school plans today. And now, Dick Tracy.
Let me try one more shot, Hoppy.
They're coming this way. Never mind that. What we want to do is to cross those skips tracks and get the plane between us and them. Come on.
Just what scheme does Hoppy Dunn have in mind? And will it succeed? You'll know tomorrow if you tune in again, same time, same station, for the adventures of Dick Tracy, directed by Wiley Adams. And this is George Gunn speaking. Like a fish takes to water, that's the way Dick Tracy takes to excitement. The way thousands of people all over the country take to the adventures of Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy and Pat Patton never know what their next case will be, but they do know that whatever it is, it'll be full of thrills and excitement. You want to listen every day, Monday through Friday, when the adventures of Dick Tracy are heard over more than 100 radio stations from coast to coast. Keep up with Dick Tracy, protector of law and order, when he's heard tomorrow and another thrill-packed chapter at this same time over this same station. It's the case of the man without a head. This is the American Broadcasting Company.